Hello, I'm Paul, and this is Paul Plays with Fire. Welcome. Come on in and grab a chair. Today on the show, we're making chicken fajitas, and then we're gonna take some of those fajitas and we're gonna make a fajita quesadilla. Does that sound good? That's what I thought. Let's get busy. Before we get too far into this, we should talk about the ingredients. Well, first of all, we have chicken. We have a couple chicken breasts here. And I put them in the freezer just for a little bit because I'm gonna cut them up, and they cut up much nicer if they're just partially frozen. And then we have, that's about, I think that's 1.5 pounds of chicken breast, so it's gonna make quite a few fajitas. And then we have our lovely chorizo. Now, a little bit of chorizo goes a long way, and Mrs. Paul Plays with Fire doesn't really care for it. So I take a little bit off to the side, and then I just put it in whatever I'm eating. So it's kind of an acquired taste, just like me. And then we have chihuahua cheese, Mexican melty cheese, Mexican quesadilla cheese, Mexican quesadilla cheese. I bought a really big bag of it because we really like this stuff. And it melts so good. Oaxaca cheese. Instead of Chihuahua cheese, you could also use Oaxaca cheese. Oaxaca and Chihuahua are both states in Mexico. That's where those names come from. And then we have some garnishes. We have some wonderful salsa that we made. Pico de gallo, onions, a poblano pepper, tomato, a little salt, a little lime juice, and a little cilantro is really all that's in it. And I made that yesterday at the same time as I made guacamole. Because pico de gallo and guacamole just go perfect on fajitas. I gotta keep that guacamole covered up or it'll turn brown in seconds. Like I said, I made those yesterday because they're better after a day or so. And I'm not gonna show you how to make them today because I already did a video on that. The video will be up here, the video will be up there, and there will be a link down in the description. It's called Mexican garnishes. I think it's pico de gallo, salsa, pickled onions, and then I made tortilla chips too. That was a fun one. Okay, we covered the cheese. Now also as a garnish, limes. Limes are really good on fajitas. When that platter of sizzling fajita deliciousness comes out, you just take a little lime, squeeze it over the top, and it really freshens it up, brightens it up. It just really makes it. And it wouldn't be fajitas if we didn't have peppers. We have a nice variety of peppers. And we've got some special techniques for cutting our peppers, our onions, and our chicken. I'll show you those in a little bit. A lot of times we don't show you cutting up vegetables because it's just a dice. Well, this isn't. It's a little more involved. And we also have a fajita marinade that I whipped up. It's really not very complicated. I'll put the rest, also put the recipe for that down in the description. It's lime juice, olive oil, a little bit of water, some cumin, some smoked paprika, some chili powder, some salt, some pepper, I think a little onion powder. That's about it. Oh yeah, and some minced garlic. And the chicken doesn't have to sit on this, but probably for just like a half an hour or so. By the time we get everything else ready to go, the chicken will be ready. And then we have onions. Got a couple onions to cut up, and we'll, like I said earlier, we'll cut those up with a special technique so that they're long pieces of onion. Long pieces of onion. And they just look better in the fajitas that way. And we also have some cilantro. We use that in the guacamole. We use that in the pico de gallo. We'll throw a little bit of that in the marinade when we make it, and we'll garnish a little bit on top because cilantro just goes across everything. It just works perfect. And then finally we have our tortillas. I hope that's everything. I was looking for tortillas, and I found this one, a 12-inch tortilla. I tried making quesadillas with it last night just for practice, and it's actually too big. So I think I'm gonna make pizzas with them. So I look forward to that in an upcoming episode, tortilla pizza. It should be fun. And it's a quick and easy way to make a pizza, and that's a 12-inch tortilla. That's big enough to make a pizza. We'll set that aside because we're not gonna make quesadillas with it tonight. We're gonna make fajitas. We're gonna warm up some smaller tortillas, like some 6-inch tortillas, and those will be for the fajitas. And then we've got some 10-inch tortillas that we use for making quesadillas. Let's see. Yep, that's all the ingredients. We'll get busy here. We'll start cutting up chicken. Mexican restaurants didn't really come around here until the early 1980s, when a ChiChi's Mexican restaurant opened in the next town over. That is the place where I first experienced fajitas. I remember it like it was yesterday. The place served a lot of fajitas. It was kind of their thing. Shortly after we were seated, a waiter walked through the dining room with a big old platter of fajita sizzling deliciousness. It only took one look and one smell for me to decide, yeah, I'll have that. And they were so good. Okay, let's cut up some chicken. We got some weather moving through, so don't be surprised if you hear a little thunder in the background, almost on cue. That's pretty cool. So we're gonna take this chicken breast, and they're huge. They're just huge. So the first thing we're gonna do is cut them in half this way. And that'll take some of the size out of them. And then we'll take what we got left and we'll kind of study it a little bit, look for the grain. And what we want to do is cut across the grain, because that will make some nice tender pieces of chicken that'll just fall apart in your mouth. We want to keep them kind of small, but we want them a little longer. You can see the grain line run this way and this way, so we've basically cut across all of them. And I could take those and cut them in half. Throw them in the bag. There's more of that weather. Kind of cool being out here in where you can hear it. Okay, and there's another one. Across the grain. And then we'll cut those in half. That one's a little longer, a little wider, so we'll cut that in half too. Okay, there we go. There's some pretty good looking fajita meat. And we're marinating it in a Ziploc bag, because that just works pretty well. Mrs. Paul Plays with Fire found these, I think they're called marinade Ziplocs. And they have a flat bottom, so they sit good. There we go, same thing, we're just cutting it right. A lateral cut, I guess, I don't know. But it makes it about half as thick as it used to be. And then we'll look for the grain lines. And, you know, because we're dealing with raw chicken here, you basically have to treat it as toxic until you cook it above 160 degrees. So that's what we're doing. That's why we're gloved up. That's why we've got a separate cutting board from everything else. When we get done with this chicken here, we're gonna take the cutting board, we're gonna burn it. That should take care of any contamination. Let's see, grain lines there. And then grain lines running there. You can see the lines running through the chicken, and then you just want to cut across them. Like I said, leaving nice little tasty bites that pull apart really easy after they're cooked, especially after they've sat in a marinade for half an hour to an hour. That's another good point where we should talk about marinade time. Chicken, you don't need to marinate it very long. I mean, chicken, if you marinate it for overnight, bad things can happen. It can get kind of fibrous and get kind of distasteful, and nobody wants that. Okay, now we've got our marinated done. Strip off our toxic gloves. Now that we have our chicken done, we're going to take off our toxic gloves and put the marinade right in there. Okay, I think our chicken is done. We're going to go burn this cutting board. We'll be right back. Fajitas were invented somewhere in the Midwest a long time ago, but they weren't really called fajitas. It was arrachera, which is marinated and grilled skirt steak eaten on a tortilla. You know, cattle-derived food. Sometime in the early 1970s, a couple places in Texas started serving arrachera on tortillas and called them fajitas. Let's just say that the fajita trend caught on pretty good. It took about 15 years, but by the late 1980s, fajitas were pretty much available everywhere in the lower 48. Okay, let's cut up some onions and peppers. Like I said, we're going to cut these a little bit on the long side, not just a normal dice. So I'm going to show you what I do here to do that. I'm going to start on the top. I'm going to start on the top of the onion. I'm going to just cut that off. I'm going to turn it over on the cut side and split it down the middle on the root. And then take the top layer or so of skin to get half of a cleaned onion. Do that again. Just separate that skin right off. Comes off pretty easy. The fresher they are, the easier the skin comes off. If you let them sit on the counter for a few weeks, skin gets a little tricky. Now I've got another onion that I've already done that to, so you don't have to watch the whole thing all over again. Now normally when I cut an onion, I would take, let's go work on a big one, it's easier. I would make a cut or two this way, all the way almost to the root, and then I would make some cuts this way, going down from the top, kind of at a spot, aiming not for the center of the onion, but at a spot about 20% below the center of the onion. And that makes all the pieces the same size. And then when you go to make your dice, you can make them just as narrow as you want to. That's a normal onion for me. Today, we're not doing that. We're gonna cut off the root end, which holds it all together. Imagine a spot 20% below the center of the onion, and we're just gonna cut for that spot. Moving around the radius like this. And what that gives you is some nice long onion slivers. Those are perfect for fajitas. We'll go ahead and do the rest of these real quick. Cut off the root. I'm pretty sure with most of the fajita restaurants I've ever been to, this is the way they cut them, because the onions look just exactly like this. Or they probably use a machine to do it. Okay, there's our onions, just that simple. Next up, we'll do the peppers. And we want this about approximately the same size pieces as we had with our onions. And so we're just gonna cut the side right off, leaving that whole nice unattached side, and leaving all the seeds and membrane in the middle. So we'll just work our way around the pepper. Being careful to avoid the seeds and the membrane in the middle. Not that there's anything wrong with them, that's just not what we want. And then we can just toss this. Now we'll take those and cut them into nice long strips, just like that. Now that's perfect on a fajita. And there's all our fajita vegetables. Boy, doesn't that look good. I'm getting hungry. Quesadillas have a long history in Mexico, going all the way back to colonial Mexico. Traditionally served as just cheese on a griddle cooked tortilla, it makes a meal by itself. Like a grilled cheese sandwich, but served with pico de gallo and guacamole. What could be more comforting? Well, I think the table has been set. I think we've got all our pieces assembled. We're ready to go. And this is one of the things where you spend 2 hours getting everything ready, and then when you start cooking, it's going to be done in 5 minutes. So I think we're just going to go ahead and let the camera run. I should show you one thing before we get started. Back in the early days of my cast iron hoarding, I purchased a fajita skillet. It was at a garage sale. It was like $2. I'm not sure where they got it. They probably stole it from a Mexican restaurant. I really don't know. Anyway, when we get the fajitas all done, right before we serve them, we'll put some of those on there and they will sizzle, and it'll be just like old times. Let's get started by putting our chicken. We've got our griddle pretty hot. It's almost 500 degrees. That chicken's gonna cook pretty fast. I'd turn that down, but that's about, as soon as I put the chicken on, it'll cool down. It's been marinated for probably about 45 minutes. Whew. Oh, that smells good. It's got enough oil in the marinade itself that I don't really feel a need to add any oil. And the water and the lemon juice, but it does have the sugar in it, so it makes a little bit of a sticky broth. Oh, now let's go ahead and add our chorizo. Let's see, we don't want to bother anybody with it, so we're going to keep it up here out of the way. close to the grease trap. That chorizo smells good. I found out my favorite butcher shop, my favorite meat market, grinds their own chorizo. So I stopped by to get just a tube of chorizo like I normally buy because that's what's available. And they said, oh, we have some fresh ground in the butcher counter. Yes, please. So we'll just let them cook for a little bit like this, and then we'll come back. We'll add the peppers in a little bit. Now we're gonna add our peppers and our onions. We're gonna put a little avocado oil down here on the edge. We got a space reserved for them. And we don't mind if the fajita seasoning gets on them. Matter of fact, we'd prefer it. The peppers. Because eventually you're going to mix them all together anyway. And our onions. We want to give the chicken and the chorizo plenty of time to cook. Because we got the whole food safety thing we need to worry about. But it's hot enough down here, I don't think it'll be an issue. Well, they're starting to turn already. We should check our fajita skillet. Oh, it's at 359. So when we put fajitas on there, they will sizzle. I guarantee it. It's excellent. Sometimes it's just a 2 spatula job. Still trying to keep them separate, but I'm not doing a very good job of it. There's some nice sizzle down there. Check out a piece of that chicken. Let's see how we're doing. Oh yeah, that's done. Whew, it's hot too. Can I see that? Nicely done. And delicious. Oh, that's good. Well, I'm gonna call our chicken done. Done enough that we can put it all together, and I've turned off this left burner, leaving me room to rest some things. But doesn't that look delicious? That looks just great. Look at that. That is a pile of meat. Peppers and chicken, nice. Great big pile of food. Okay, we'll move that off to the side. Nobody's going hungry tonight. We'll let that rest over there. Now, we're going to clean off the spot and make a quesadilla. Make a fajita quesadilla. So I need a little scrape in it. The sugar in the marinade does make for a bit of a sticky mess on the griddle. That's all right, it cleans up, but it's just something to be aware of. Okay, there, that looks about right. Put a little oil down. Spread it out with a spatula. And this doesn't take very long either. Ooh, hot, hot, hot. Okay, so we'll kind of start loading this up with cheese on one side. That looks about right. Put some of our fajita mix in there. Make sure you get it all. Put a little bit of that chorizo in there, because I like chorizo. I like sausage. Put a little more cheese on top of it. Guess what? I filled it too full again. We will flip this side over onto this side and press it down. Hope nothing important squeezes out. I'm turning all the burners off. I think we're basically done. Get in there. I think we're getting really close here. Yep. I think it's time to start assembling a cutting board. Let's look at that Other side once again. That looks pretty good. That's the good side. She's showing her good side. So we're gonna put our cutting board down here. Put a big old plate of guacamole down here and maybe sprinkle a little cilantro onto it because we got it. And then we'll put a big old bowl of salsa over here someplace. We're gonna run out of room already, I can tell. And they're gonna put our quesadilla up here, and we're gonna cut that guy into 3 equal-ish pieces. Oh, that looks good. Kind of move that off to the side there. Maybe the guacamole goes back here. I don't know. Put a little garnish on there, just because we can. And then we'll put maybe a little cheese on top there. And a couple limes, because limes are delicious. Okay, imagine yourself, that's fine, in a restaurant in the 80s. And all of a sudden, from the kitchen comes a guy carrying a plate full of this. What would you do? I tell you what I did. I ordered it. I got some. Look at that. That is pretty. That looks like a pretty good plate, doesn't it? If that's on the menu, that's what I'm getting. Fajita, extreme fajitas. That's what it is, extreme fajitas. Okay, let's dig in. You know what I forgot to do? Forgot to warm up a couple of tortillas. So we'll do that real quick. There's still enough heat in that grill, I'll probably do it. And meanwhile, we'll sample a quesadilla. I tell you, that is everything I want right there. The crunch, the cheese, the cilantro, the lime, the seasonings, it's everything I want. And that's without putting a little bit of salsa on there. And maybe a little guac. That makes it right there. Okay, now we're gonna get a little bit of, well, that's hot all right. Ooh, very hot. Now we're gonna make a little, very hot. Who knew the griddle was hot? We're gonna put a little bit of that fajita mix along with some guacamole and some pico de gallo. Like I said, there's a recipe for the guacamole and the pico de gallo down in the description, so make sure you check that out. Good stuff. Very good stuff. Wow, that's so good. I got so much food, but it's so good. I finally got around to making fajitas, and fajita quesadillas no less. So thanks for watching today. This has been Paul Plays with Fire. See you next time.